Hello, and welcome to the next episode of Two Girls Talk Transits. Today we're reviewing the astrology from January 26th through February 1st, and we're your hosts. I'm Maddie.
And I'm Kaleigh.
And welcome. So we start off this week on Sunday, another really full week. I have a lot of astrology going through these past 2 weeks, but the Sunday is just we have two like minor sextiles. The first Mercury is sextiling Neptune, and then Venus is also sextiling Uranus. So that seems to be this more helpful start, helpful flow. That's probably kind of cleaning up the previous week, I think, a bit. Like Mercury had that opposition with Mars and it was trining Uranus. And now it's
Mhm.
sextiling Neptune, so it's like integrating all of that, I feel like.
Yeah, I could definitely see that as like integrating, like pulling the stuff that you learned, like from above, like through your crown chakra and into your body.
Yeah, and like creativity, maybe if like that Mercury opposite Mars gave you some problems. I feel like there's a lot of problems being from like last week that give you some issues. Like maybe there's some creativity or solving them or, open to more solutions for them.
Yeah, or seeing things like in a new way, or you know, yeah, like you said,
And
having
maybe,
things come up.
yeah, like maybe too like embracing change because Venus is sextiling Uranus as well. So like there's an element of like, okay, a lot is changing, a
Mm.
lot is shifting, and now I'm just going to accept that and embrace it and work with it in some way.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Venus sextile to Uranus can also have us like, Venus separate from all of our charts can also represent like relational dynamics. So it is possible that we have some change in relational dynamics, but it should be somewhat of a pleasant change or, you know, not anything too harsh.
Yeah, I think it is. I think things are changing, right? Like Venus was also from last week interacting with Mars and like connecting with Mars too, which Mars we know is fearing up a lot of shifts or change too. And this is the last little bit of Venus being exalted in Pisces. So it's kind of like, okay, I want to make this go better for myself. I want to, if this things need to change, then I'm going to do it and make it more pleasing, more aesthetic, more promising, I
Mm.
guess.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Yeah, so that's a soft note to start on, but then the next day on Monday, Mercury will enter into Aquarius, and now we are not in any earth signs at this time, except for Uranus, which doesn't count.
That'll be interesting, an interesting shift of things. Typically when we don't have any earth, there's like some ungroundedness, and especially with going into an air sign, we could be facing like ideals or ideas that are very like in the air, I guess, like above and beyond us. Like we don't have the tools to necessarily pull them down at the time. Um, so yeah. I mean, if anything though, like Mercury shifting into Aquarius is going to be like bringing in new ideas and fresh thought. In Capricorn, I feel like Mercury can be a little bit slow and like a little bit too logical, and now we're almost experiencing like the flip side of that coin, like what happens when we're totally illogical.
Yeah, and to like just with Jupiter still in Gemini, like making trines to Aquarius,
Mm-hmm.
like that is a lot of like mental activity, a lot of ideas are spinning around. And I think that was a good point of like the ungroundedness because like I was thinking too, Mercury then the next day, but you'll be feeling it as soon as Mercury enters in Aquarius on that Monday. But then on Tuesday, Mercury does conjunct Pluto. And I
Mm-hmm.
was thinking too, like with Pluto representing our fears in Aquarius, like Pluto in Capricorn was a lot of practical fears, like material things crumbling around you, like things being destroyed. But this Pluto in Aquarius is like all these fears of ideas or like ideals or like beliefs and like what is society going to function like, kind of things that are very ungrounded fears and they're not quite real yet, but they are also kind of real. So like
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
know, there's a lot of that probably peaking.
I could see that, like things, yeah, definitely fears of ideals coming up. I mean, I feel like it's happening at a really interesting time, this transit, because it's very reflective of like earthly events. Like we're really tuned into the US story, right? Because like we're in the US, but
Right.
we're having this like complete shift of power and we're kind of all just like sitting in the stands, like waiting to see what happens with that. And it's just this like time that I think that we haven't experienced in a long time, um, where this new presidency is like coming up with like a lot of fears. Like we haven't been scared like this before in the past, I don't think, with like, at least not in my lifetime, with like newer presidents coming in. But
No.
this presidency in particular is like coming up with a lot of fears in people. And we're seeing like things shift in a way that we never have before, like utilization of technology. Like Elon Musk is like huge in this presidency at this moment, and he is very much like archetype for like the Aquarian energy.
Yeah, wasn't it such a literal, like, like with the sun entering into Aquarius and conjuncting Pluto on inauguration, and
Hmm.
then and during the inauguration was just the oligarchs, just the
Hmm.
billionaires. Like that
Hmm.
is so literal of
I
like, hey,
know.
these are the Plutonian people that control society, Aquarius. Like, yeah, it is. And so I know it's a real good point, and I think Mercury meeting, conjuncting Pluto, Mercury entering Aquarius is kind of the reiteration of this kind of fears, discussions, and ideas. And I think a lot of people too don't know how to manage this. Like we were just practically talking like at work the other day, like Trump signing the whole there's only two genders things. Okay,
Mhm.
well, people in different states have a different gender on their identification. So what are you gonna how does that gonna work? Are you gonna burn their like how are you gonna make them all change IDs now? Like that's millions of people.
Yeah, I was wondering about that too, because didn't he say, isn't there something now also about like a access to hormonal intervention?
Right? I don't know.
I
But
don't,
it
I mean,
is. It is like
yeah,
they're signing all these things instantly, but then there's no system or processing and change to actually make a change. And so people are like,
Mhm.
what are we doing? This is like chaos.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's our lack of Earth right there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like there's no practicality to it.
They're just like, this is the new idea. This is what we're doing. Okay, how? I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't know actually, so whatever. Yeah, I said it.
So little.
I know. Oh
So
God.
it's just like, I don't know. I just think that's so funny. Like, not funny, but
Yeah,
trying to be funny. I mean, like, it's fucked up, but
I know, for real. Yeah, like many people are going to have to maybe get creative, and that is very much also Aquarian energy. We're
right.
going to have to get creative with things and how we decide to move forward. And yeah, it's definitely an interesting time to see. Like this
Well,
will definitely be like a time where we're like reflecting on with our grandkids.
I don't if we make it. I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
right. Who knows? Yeah.
Um, I mean, and just to like add more emphasis on that, then like, Mercury starts off that week just entering there, conjuncting Pluto, and then we get a new moon in Aquarius on Wednesday, the 29th, and this is our lunar new year, and year of the snake.
Yeah.
And I think that's fitting. So if you're in YouTube, you have the video, but for audio listeners, the chart here, we're looking at a new moon right at 9 degrees of Aquarius, and it's right there. Mercury and Pluto are still in a pretty close conjunction at the moment. And
Hmm.
there's a loose trine from Gemini or Jupiter in Gemini, sorry, at 11 degrees there. And it's really the only aspect we're having. It's far enough from a square with Uranus, but I think we'll still feel that kind of,
Yeah.
yeah. I think the new moon is definitely a literal, like, hey, new moon, new collective growth of like Pluto, like of Pluto and Aquarius, of the power changes there. There is an element of hope and optimism, I think, with Jupiter, but it could also be just the flurry of ideas and the flurry of miscommunications and the flurry of not knowing what is truth, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's definitely going to highlight some of that more of that Pluto and Aquarius stuff. And, ruled by that Saturn and Pisces also. I'm interested to see how that kind of comes into play and what we'll be feeling there.
Yeah, I mean, practically the new moon doesn't see its ruler, like it doesn't see Saturn and Pisces. So I do feel like there's a feeling of unknown and uncertainty because I also keep looking at that North Node, like almost conjuncting Neptune. It technically does it next week, but it's so activated this week, like
Mhm.
this new moon can't see its ruler, and that generally is like uncertainty. I don't know how this is going to play out, or what is next, or like what is the structure that will support us. Like, I
Yeah.
feel like there's definitely a lot of that un just ungrounded fears.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, as we're talking more about this, like, I just noticed this, like, kind of drought that of ungroundedness that we're going through. We can't see Saturn at the moment, which is a grounding planet. We don't have a lot of Earth. We are just kind of experiencing this, like, we can't get our footing and can't quite understand, like, where it is we stand. Um, and yeah, I just think that, like, really hits home because many of us don't know where we stand. Like, especially as these like power things start to rule out, like, are we like what economical class are we going to sit in? Are we going to be like the poorest of the
Right.
poor? Like what's going to happen to the middle class? What's going to like we have all these questions of like where do we stand in society at this moment because even our like societal structure seems to be changing. Like our class systems seem to be changing in some way.
No, that's such a good point. I do think collectively it's like now what, how, and just all the
Hmm.
questions. Personally, you want to look to be Aquarius in your chart and just know like this new moon is really starting or asking new intentions from you or kind of a new period of focus around that area. And especially you should be knowing now, especially with Mercury meeting Pluto, like what Pluto's asking to transform in that house, like where that's all related right now with this new moon. And it's like, okay, maybe setting new intentions for how you're going to use this power, the secrets or things that you're uncovering here. And I mean, on like a personal side with the trine from Jupiter, it is kind of a positive new moon, but
Hmm.
there is just so much unknown that floats around with it, and you have to figure out how you work with that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see, but yeah, definitely reflecting on that 10th house or 10th house, that's mine.
You're like already there,
I
like,
know, I'm
yeah,
like,
what is this about for me?
oh my goodness. No, reflecting on the Aquarius ruled part of your chart is definitely gonna, yeah, give you some
Yeah.
insight. And we are like, since the sun shifted into Aquarius, you're getting that new level of awareness that you didn't have before. We already had Venus transit over into Aquarius. So that might have given you like some information or like lightened up that space for you a bit when Venus was there. But you're getting more of like the fuller picture at this moment with more of these planets transiting through that area of your chart.
Yes, I agree. And yes, to your point, like if you are a fixed sign rising, so Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, or Scorpio rising sign, especially, then this is going to be one of the more prominent areas of your chart, probably one of the more prominent places you're seeing a lot of change or pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so
So
take some notes down, I think, especially if it's angular, like Maddie said. Yeah.
that's the first bit of this week. So definitely a lot. Oh, and then to add to that though, like even if Uranus, like I said, Uranus is not really squaring the new moon, but on the 30th, the Thursday, Uranus does station direct. So
So Uranus has been, I actually need to grab my ephemeris to see how long. Do you know how long it's been retro?
Uranus entered Taurus in 2000 and crap.
No, I'm thinking
There,
about when did it station retrograde?
oh, when did it station retrograde?
Yeah, let's see
I
here.
think oh here, September 1st.
Yeah, you're right. Yep. That was
Yeah,
what
September
or
1st.
no, I have September 2nd or first.
Okay.
First.
Well,
Yeah.
around there.
Yeah. Oh, because mine's at a different time than yours also, but yeah, it was either the first or the second, somewhere around there.
Yeah, it's basically September. So yeah, you're looking at September, October, November, December, and this is the end of January now, so almost all of January. You were reviewing a lot of change and kind of the last bit of change and disruption in that house because Uranus is entering Gemini next.
Mm.
Like it will retrograde back, I think, into Taurus for a little bit, but this is kind of the last full retrograde in Taurus. So the last real significant change and disruption in that area of your life. I don't, and, you're maybe really feeling it around the 30th of how you're noticing it because whenever it stations, it just becomes prominent. There may be a sudden change, there may be suddenly a shocking information, or you realizing I want to break free from this. Uranus does really like freedom too, like outside constraints.
Yeah, I think that's really important to note. Like whenever planets, like Maddie mentioned, station retrograde or station direct, we have like big influxes of energy on those days, and there's a lot of information that comes through. So just making sure that you're aware, even I think like maybe 2 days before and 2 days after, any point around this like January 30th date, just pay attention to like things that happen because those are going to speak to that those Uranus themes. So that'll be a cool day to like make a note on like, hey, this is what happened this day or whatever. Um, Even so that you can like reflect back at some point.
Yeah, I think it colors the new moon a bit. I mean, I know it's a modern astrology take, that Uranus rules Aquarius, but
Yeah.
like in traditional astrology, though, we can still see that being a part of this new moon of having a more Uranian context because it's so close to when Uranus is stationing direct, and the new moon itself is still in a sign-based square to
Hmm.
Taurus, so it's still in relationships with that. So and it does just really add to the ungrounded component, though, of like, hey, your only things that you've had stable and earthly and consistent are also getting changed.
Yeah, for sure. So might as well just like embrace the change. But one thing I actually heard about this earlier today, um, is that change can be like really difficult for our nervous system and our body. Like even if it's positive change, it can still like be a little bit jarring to us because we're stepping out of the norm. So, whatever change does come, whether it be positive or negative in your perception, like just be aware that you are going through a shift, and it can be like an important time to be a little bit more gentle with yourself. Um, because yeah, like I said, change is it's just like it just messes with you a bit, you know? Like it sets you off or
It
like sets you
no,
off
it
a little.
does.
Yeah.
That's why it is because it's like, okay, now you have to totally do a different routine and a different thing. But there is something I think empowering about the change, like, because the same day on this 30th, which is Thursday of the week, the sun completes that trine to Jupiter, going back to that new moon. Now the sun completes the trine to Jupiter, and the
Hmm.
sun and Jupiter really work well together. And I know Jupiter is still detriment in Gemini, but there's something influx that's like empowering you, like, okay, but I can do this. Like, I can do my part in this change, like I can embrace this growth that this change is asking for me. It is like a thing of growth or a thing of stepping into more of the sun ego, I guess, in a bit.
Yeah, yeah, it's like a little bit of an ego inflation that you might be needing, if you had been suffering from like feelings of like low confidence or like I'm not sure if I can handle this or this, that, or the other thing, whatever that thing is. This should be giving you some boost of confidence, like actually no, like I am capable of whatever said thing is.
And I think with Jupiter and Gemini, this may be more of like the micro interactions or the micro knowledge that you have, like
Mm,
I'm
yeah.
actually good at this one thing. So what if I just put my energy into this and like do it well and do it intentionally, and this will help change the collective, you
Yeah, that's
know?
That's an interesting perspective. This like whole transit Jupiter through Gemini has been like having you collect like small bits of information. And it might not feel like those small bits are like changing the world in the moment, but like through time, it's like you're actually gathering a ton of information. It's just coming in small doses. Um, so this might be a moment where you start feeling like, oh, this like transit through Gemini, I've actually gained a lot, like more so than I thought I did. So you can be taking that out and bringing that information into the sun, like you said.
Yeah, it is. I think it's the smaller things that you need to just matter because like, the sun in Aquarius is so much about the whole environment, the whole
Mhm.
collective. And then this is like, okay, but let me just, take the praise, take the growth and the smaller pieces of things, and that can make you feel stronger and empowered.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then the last bit of this week is quieter, and I think this is where, the kind of rest and trust and like healing component we have is on February 1st on Saturday, but you'll be feeling it from the last little bit of this week is Venus will then conjunct Neptune, and she'll also conjunct the North Node, and the North Node and Neptune are conjuncted. Now, this is again really ungrounded, but
Hmm.
this is the sweet part of ungroundedness. Yeah.
Yeah, this is more so like the faith-based part of it. Like, you're being called to like rely on the faith of your path. And, I think Venus and Neptune is such like a cute combination. Like it really, I think it is like it's like dissociation that like actually feels good. It would be like painting or like reading a book for a really long time or, just getting lost in like art forms, like things like this.
Yeah, it's escapism, and it's
Mhm.
escapism through art, through self-expression, through relationships, through, just being with your partner or someone you love, and like just being fully present with them and, cutting everything out. And yeah, I mean, it's not always, it can be delusional because, right, you're not like grounded or practical. But I think in this moment of time, especially for this week, like it's okay to just have this like place to retreat to escape to be delusional within because you don't want to, like you said, there's been all this change and all this disruption. Like you don't want to stress yourself out. And that escapism can really just help you like put it away for just a bit, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, no, it is valid. It's definitely valid. Like one of the things we do a lot in mental health is like if your nervous system is really stressed out by a certain event is like although it's not good like in the long term, but in the immediate like right here and now it's good to distract sometimes.
Hmm.
So, finding those like healthy distractions can be like actually pretty healthy in general, So it's okay to escape a little bit. It's okay to be out of touch, to like sit on your Nintendo Switch for 3 hours if that's, what you need.
Yeah, whatever it is for
Yeah.
you, like it's okay. I mean, yeah, you do need boundaries with that, and like it's not a daily thing, but like sometimes it's like, you know what, I just need to shut my brain off and be okay. And like that is so much more helpful. And I mean, I would one couple things to watch out for, like I wouldn't like start a new relationship around this day or like,
Oh no. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
You're definitely gonna get like lost in the sauce with that one.
Yeah, I would be careful about like certain relationship plans or commitments around this day because it's like so idealistic that it can just totally not be real at all. Like there is that Neptune is the deceiver too in some ways. So there's always that element that can pop up. But uh, yeah, other than that, it's okay to just have a good time.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too. Like for people that are in like longer stable relationships, it could be like a really nice date night or like you said, I think you said before, spending time with your partner, right?
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
partners or even just friends or just like doing something sweet. Venus just loves connection. And I think that's a really good thing to lean on when we're in Aquarius season, but dealing with all these Aquarius challenges.
Yeah, yeah. It also would be a good time to like pay attention to like the aesthetics of things. Like if you're wanting to make
Mm.
some kind of aesthetic change to like your home or something like this, I think it would be a good time to like play around with like fabrics and paints and things like that and like kind of map that stuff out. Although I probably wouldn't do like any kind of um what do you call this?
Permanent.
Yeah,
Oh,
like facial aesthetic changes.
oh, really?
Like a Botox or anything like that. Like I'd probably
Oh,
avoid
yeah.
that at this
Might be
time.
like putting too much in. Yeah, something that's
Yeah.
like too permanent, you don't, you want to leave room to change it later.
Right. Or like it's like you could get carried away. Like you could think that
Yeah.
it's like good, but it could be like, don't take it too far, I wouldn't think. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a good point. Yeah, like any aesthetic changes, making anything pretty, a website designed,
Yeah, it'd be really good for that. Yeah, like branding
yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
branding design, super creative energy for sure. But yeah, make sure that there's an option for you to redo it if later necessary.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That's definitely the case. Yeah.
Okay, well that is the note we end on. It is another really big full week, and I mean, well, here we are, in America at least. We're deep into Pluto Aquarius and Aquarius season, all the changes. So we get to see that play out this week, but hopefully you can find a little bit of rest and release at the end of it.
Yeah, I think that will definitely be possible.
All right. Well, if you want more content for us, still here on TikTok, I guess. Um,
I know, right? Like that was anyways.
that's just another literal example of this like back and forth, don't know what the fuck's going on.
I know.
Um, Still on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube are the main places. We do have a Substack. I need to post on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so our Substack is something that we're going to start diving into a bit more and like posting some educational content. So if you're interested in reading about astrology, you can sign up for our Substack. I think it's a really cool place to learn about some of the topics that maybe you're going to have a challenge like finding elsewhere. So yeah, I think a lot of astrology is like not taught but told to you. So if you're interested on like actually learning it, I think that could be like a cool read. Like you could have some cute reads in the morning with like some tea and like just to learn a little astrology.
Yeah, we'll be contributing there. So that's all those are at Two Girls Talk Transits. You'll be able to find all of that there. And yeah, we'll see you next week.
See you.
Bye.